This is MDiTV.
Did you hear the one about aspirin and breast cancer prevention? Well, if you did, chances are the punchline carried a bit too much punch. Here's one example.
In the news, a suggested link between aspirin and the prevention of breast cancer. We know about aspirin's benefits and qualities as a blood thinner in terms of stroke treatment, heart health, but this would be a new role, and we are joined here for more on this tonight by our chief medical editor, Dr. Nancy Snyderman. So before people run out to the stores, what is the benefit shown here?
I'm sorry, let me be the word police here.
Gary Schweitzer critiques news coverage of medicine as publisher of healthnewsreview.org.
You can't go there. You can't establish a benefit when you have not established cause and effect. You can point to a strong statistical link or association, and that's about it.
What Schweitzer's pointing out is that the aspirin and breast cancer risk report was based on an observational study. Using data collected in a decades-long study of women, researchers calculated that breast cancer survivors who said they took aspirin most days had lower rates of breast cancer recurrence and death. Researchers were curious about that because of some lab and animal studies that suggested aspirin might make it harder for breast cancer cells to spread. And while they say their new results should encourage more research, they stress that since this study was not a controlled experiment, it cannot prove that aspirin actually prevented some breast cancer recurrences.
We just asked them what they're doing. We didn't tell them what to do. It was not an experiment. And observational studies can never tell you for sure that aspirin was the cause of their improved survival. It could have been other factors that we weren't able to measure. In order to do that, you have to do a randomized controlled trial, and I hope that happens soon.
Much of the news coverage of this aspirin and breast cancer study repeated a pattern that Schweitzer says he sees far too often. Reporters punching up the lead and punching out the scientific facts, limitations, and caveats.
It seems that all of the incentives, all of the pressures on the part of journalists are to use active verbs. It's what we're taught in journalism school. But that very issue is where we get in trouble with observational studies, because it is the active verbs like protects or boosts or saves or harms. Those active verbs suggest that we already know that there's a cause and effect linkage here, and we don't know that with observational studies.
Just so you know, Schweitzer brought me into health reporting when he ran the CNN medical unit, and I sometimes help evaluate news stories for his healthnewsreview.org. The whole observational study versus experimental trial thing can seem all nerdy, but when someone tells you that a drug or device might have some benefits, it's important to know where they got that idea. Is it from an experiment in which some people got the active treatment and others didn't, so you know the only difference was, in fact, the treatment? Or is it based on observation that indicated two things, the treatment and the desired outcome, seem to go together? A lot of observational studies of vitamins, for example, have misled us in the past, pointing to benefits that didn't pan out when researchers tested them in real experiments. Sometimes there's something else going on, like vitamin takers also eating healthier diets, that muddle the results of observational studies. And then there's the question of which is the cause and which is the effect. Do vitamins make people healthier, or do people who take better care of their health tend to take more vitamins? An observational study often can't give you a definite answer. So when you hear the news about aspirin maybe lowering breast cancer recurrence rates, for instance, check the source. Was it an experiment showing cause and effect, or observations pointing to a statistical association? After all, ringing alarm clocks are very strongly associated with the start of the workday. Unfortunately, if your alarm fails to go off, that won't cause your boss to give you the morning off.